Very often the example is given of the United States of America. That the United States has been using GM crops as food, GM soya, GM corn, and to a small extent GM potato for the last 12 or 13 years. In fact, in the United States, 90% of corn, or over 90% of corn, over 80% of soya is GM soya. And it might also amuse you, and I have a book on that, a very interesting book on that, that in the United States, corn is slowly replacing wheat. Because wheat is not genetically engineered, corn is genetically engineered, therefore companies can sell GM seed, and therefore they are persuading the government to use more and more corn. So you can't find virtually any food product in the United States, excepting pure wheat and pure rice, which does not have either corn product or soya product. We're slowly, just imagine that wheat being replaced by corn in a country like the United States over the period. Then, as I said, that they have been using these for the last 12 years, and I've been often told, I've been told by the Embassy of the United States, well, Dr. Bhargava, why are you objecting to it in our country? We're eating GM corn and GM soya for so long and nothing has happened. So I said, your first statement is correct, your second statement needs to be looked at. When you say nothing has happened to you, I find it difficult to believe. Because if you plot the increase in the incidence of GI disorders in Americans, including obesity, over the last 12 years, this plot is almost identical or superimposable on the plot of the increase in the consumption of GM soya and GM corn. Now, this does not establish a cause and effect relationship, but it says it's possible. Please remember, how long did it take us to establish a cause and effect relationship between the smoking and lung cancer? It took 100 years and so much of science to establish that smoking causes lung cancer.
So they don't believe in long-term process.
Let me give you another instance. I wonder how many of you are aware that till 1950s, there was a widely prevalent disease in Madhya Pradesh called letharism. And it was a scourge. Large number of people, you go to, at that time, I remember my first visit to Madhya Pradesh in the 1950s, and I saw these children with bow leg and, almost unable to walk straight. And that was letharism. You know, how long did it take to discover the cause of letharism? It was only, the disease has been recorded in the British records for more than 150 years. But it took us all that time to discover that it was caused by kesari dal, which was used to adulterate tur dal or arhar dal, which was cheap. And that contains a toxin of which the structure was determined by People's National Institute of Nutrition and by P.H. Sharma's group in Bangalore. I was a witness to that. So, to say that in the United States, GM crops have done nothing to the health of people, I'm afraid is a statement I find very hard to believe. And it might take them 100 years or more, when a lot more damage would have been done to the health of Americans before we know that there is this cause and effect relationship. In this context, let me tell you that all Americans are not stupid. Just as not all Indians are wise. As we know, if we watch the parliament session, say all Americans are not stupid. In California, there is a proposition number 37, which is now coming up for a vote of all the residents of California, for a referendum. And the proposition is, in California, we shall not allow any GM crop unless it is labeled. I have seen the text of proposition 37. There are other propositions also which will come up for referendum. The first survey that was done said that 60% of the people support this proposition 37. But this was some time ago. After that, both sides, those who supported the proposition and those who were against it, and those who were against it include all the seed companies, Monsanto, Pro Agro, Dow, they started collecting money. And on the last report, the money collected by those who are against the proposition, that is all these seed companies, was much larger than the money collected by those who support the proposition. But people still believe that the proposition will go through. If it goes through, then there will be a revolution in America. Believe me, this will be a revolution in America because the rest of America does what California does. So then there will be pressure on other states to do the same thing. So let's watch that with great anticipation as to what's going to happen there. So then I must also mention to you that the statement that you are very often hear, so many countries are using GM crops. Well, the fact is that 84% of GM crops are grown in 4 countries. United States, Canada, Argentina and Brazil. That's it. And the remaining 16% are grown in another 16 or 17 countries. To a very small extent, India is one. 90% of members of United Nations do not grow GM crops. And many of them, they're completely banned. And if they do come into the country, they have to be linked. So when somebody makes the statement that, the rest of the world is doing it, so why should India fall behind? You have arguments to counter it. Not only that, the countries like Austria, Germany, Greece, Switzerland, Tasmania, the little island of Australia, large number of countries actually have clearly stated as a statement of state policy that they shall not permit any GM crops. And as I said, in our country itself, also number of states that I mentioned earlier do not allow GM crops.